Welcome to the Be Bold podcast,
Ooh.
a show about risk takers, purpose chasers, and the bold moves that change their lives. Come on, let's go.
Let's go. What's up, dude?
You've got Justin
And Jeremy over here.
and we're your hosts. So, welcome to the show.
Let's go.
Jeremy,
What's up?
how are you feeling in this moment?
Wow. Man, it's been a lot, dude. Leading up to this moment, we've been working on putting together the room, or the studio, the den. And I think it's come together pretty well. We got to the point now where all we had to do was hit the record button. So I'm really excited to be sitting here with you right now. And
I think it's important to say that, these conversations have been happening in this room for such a long time. Just such powerful, incredible people have walked through these doors already. And it's just such an honor to host people. That's one of our favorite things to do, is just host people, make them coffee, and you never know what's going to happen after that. So
yeah, absolutely. And so I really wanted to touch on, ultimately, I think boldness paired with a mission can take you anywhere in life. And ultimately, that's what we want to exemplify on this podcast, be able to take that message to plenty more people than just what people see in this room. If we talk about it in this room by ourselves, it's not, it can only go so far, but being able to cast our nets out super wide and super far, and being able to take this message, across the world is our ultimate goal here. And so, only because we do trust in God and we believe that He's going to be able to take our message a lot further than under our own will, I should say. So very excited.
That is so good, man. I love that. I think that's been a dream of ours for a very long time, to actually get on social media, hit the record button. But we're engineers at heart, so we're perfectionists. Dude, everything has to be perfect, and this is us trying to break that mold right now. And so to actually be here, it's conquering our fears. I know it's actually being bold. It's one thing to have the mission of being bold. It's another thing to actually take it, run with it, and have the obedience and actually walk it through. Because I think a lot of people have ideas, but it's cool when you can actually implement them and go for it.
Wow, man! I think our lives have been marked by ultimately dreaming big, having bold visions, and running after those dreams as hard as we can. And sometimes that means, like, we might actually come to people and tell them, like, hey, we want to do this. We want to start a coffee truck. We want to go build a big Airbnb, an 8-bedroom, 8-bathroom Airbnb. And man, little do we know, it usually takes a little bit longer, but by the end of the journey, we can always look back at that puzzle and say, man, God just did something beautiful in that. And so I like to use that metaphor a lot. Ultimately, like, God is just, He gives us all these puzzle pieces, and at the end of the day, it's our job to kind of maneuver them and put them in the spots that they need to go in. But when we get at the end of our lives, or toward the end of those milestones, you can look back and you can see this beautiful picture. And of course, we're 30 at this point, and of course, ideally we have a lot longer to go. And I know our lives are only just a myth at the end of the day. That's what the Bible says. But, being able to see, hey, at least we have a little bit of a picture to go off of. And all right, well, now we know how to put this puzzle together. How can we do it in a strategic way that can impact many lives? That's kind of where we're at right now. So,
man, you just hit the nail on the head right there. Wow. Way to start this thing off. Let's go. This is a smashing success already, I can tell. Hey, can you tell me a little bit about where Be Bold came from, and why we find ourselves here right now? Did it originally come from an idea of starting a podcast?
No, actually, funny enough, the idea of this was birthed when we were going to Auburn University. And, I was studying mechanical engineering. You were studying electrical engineering. And we found ourselves we found ourselves at a lot of coffee shops. And so, funny enough, coffee was a big part of this journey of Be Bold. God gave us be bold. We didn't really know what that it was going to turn into. And I remember looking at one of your reminders that just says be bold, that it said be bold in 2017. And, from there, we just started praying about it and saying, okay, if we were to mix our passions with what we do in life, what would it be? And I don't know if engineering was the end goal. I mean, we're doing it and we love solving problems. That's who we are. But yeah, what do you have to say about that?
That's so good. So true. Like mixing our callings. I think that was a big thing. It's like, if we could mix our our passion with something that we could do for a living, like what would that look like? And I remember praying really hard about that back in 2017. And it's like, man, like be bold. That's interesting. Like I don't normally hear any business names as an action. So I think that just goes to show our heart behind be bold. Is like, it's not just hearing, but doing. It talks about that in the word a little bit as well. Not being hearers of the word, but talks about that in the Bible, not being hearers of the word, but doers as well. And so that's so important. But yeah, I heard that very clearly in 2017 and wrote it down as a reminder on my phone. And funny enough, the coffee truck actually wasn't birthed until, what was it, 2022?
Yeah. So I think we're actually going to talk about that here in a little bit. I am super excited to break that down a little bit more. But yeah, just boldness in general, I found it can be a lot of different things. And it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And so, yeah, kind of excited to share our story of forgiveness with the people that are watching today, and hopefully encourage those that, to say that, man, you know what, boldness isn't just coming off as or being portrayed as brash or courageous or strong, but it can also mean being vulnerable or not harboring unforgiveness, being able to forgive people that probably shouldn't be forgiven, right? And so with our story, I wanted to kind of jump into that unless you have any other questions.
No, that's so good, man. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions, so feel free to dive into that, and
I would love to
hit it.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, we grew up in an Air Force family. And so we moved around a ton. And I remember getting into high school and obviously just running super hard at, doing well in school because, ultimately we didn't make the baseball team. And that was something that we wanted pretty badly. So we kind of just transitioned into school, and, that's just a small part of our testimony. And eventually made it into college, which is a major pivotal point in our lives. And it was really cool. You actually, you landed the valedictorian of our high school.
Sheesh.
So I do got to give him props, guys. I got to give him props.
He ratted me out on that one. I wasn't going to tell him that.
Fair. But yeah.
Hey, he was number 3. So come on. Like, we got to give him a round of applause for that. That's seriously.
If you can't come in second, you got to come in third. So made it to Auburn University, and praise God, he opened up a way for us to have our college paid for. And so truly we felt like we were called to go to Auburn. Had went there for a summer science institute, like a little summer fun thing for some college students in Alabama. And so, yeah, like I said, that's kind of where our the idea of being bold was birthed. And it, we ultimately didn't figure out what exactly we wanted to do. It was like a slow process, and ultimately that's what we want to portray in figuring out what your passion is and what your purpose is, because sometimes it doesn't just show up. And so many of the guests that we bring on will probably agree that it took, time and time again, or idea after idea, to figure out what they love and what they're passionate about. And so just to cast a little bit of vision on some of the people that are going to show up on this podcast, Forrest Frank, of course, a lot of people know him as somebody who runs after music and touches many, many lives through that. We say our focus is people, and our language is coffee. And for him, he would say his focus is people and his language is music. And so that's a really cool way to look at it. We're really excited to have him on the show. Who else are we going to have on, Justin?
Oh, man, that's a great question. We're going to have people like Maddie Pruitt-Trout, a dear friend and a speaker, author, and an amazing woman of God who has truly just running after her passions, and you can see it in everything she does, and really excited about that. Who else?
Man, we're going to have Gary Vaynerchuk on here.
Come on.
Honestly, we're going to cast out some boldness and say that we're just going to have some of the most premier people in the world on this show, and definitely looking forward to reaching out to those people and getting them on.
I love that. I love that. I think, you look at our people, who's going to be watching this show, Jeremy. It's probably, entrepreneurs, people who are just running full force after what they feel the Lord has called them to. And truly, that's what we try to do with our lives, and that's what we try to emulate. And so, Can you talk a little bit about the coffee truck? Obviously, this show is kind of birthed out of that. So, I kind of want to hit on that for the people that are in this town and who have kind of watched this thing blow up. Talk about how successful that was, and just what an amazing opportunity that was to just kind of be a launch pad and land us here.
I would love to. Just huge thank you to the people who supported the coffee truck. We get questions daily on the what once was the Be Bold Coffee Instagram, and now it's the Be Bold podcast. But I just wanted to say a huge thank you to the people that supported us. We launched it in March of 2025 and 2024. Yeah, March of 2024, and it went for 6 months through about September, and just had a multitude. Granted, that was during the biggest season and heavy season that takes place here at the beach in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. So we did see a lot of success in that, and then also we reached a large international community on Instagram as well because of how unique the truck is. It was an old Volkswagen truck, and we got kind of bored at our desk jobs during COVID, anyways, and we decided to kind of start to use our hands, put our minds together, and build something that was super cool, unique experience. And so that's something that I do want to touch on is that ultimately our hearts are for building things that are kind of allow people to ask the question, man, like why in the world did they do something like that? It might not be super cost effective, right? Because like it was expensive to build out the truck. And it was just a coffee truck, right? But it reached a lot of people.
Well, when you have a mechanical engineer, Jeremy, designing a coffee truck, that thing's going to be over-engineered. It was an incredible work of art. He was drawing things by hand, and I was just confused the whole entire time. And I'm really glad it actually turned out to look like something. Like in my head, I was like, Jeremy, I don't know how you're going to make this work, but I'll do some wiring, and we'll say we both did it.
Absolutely, and of course Justin helped.
So did Meg. I also, I was gonna have to give credit to my wife Meg for a lot of the design. Just really gave it an edge when it came to marketing, and she made that thing look good. And Jeremy turned those dreams into reality, and along with myself, I gotta give myself a little bit of credit too.
Of course, praise the Lord. And I know you'd say the same exact thing, man. He gave us a vision, and it was something that we felt compelled to do, and it didn't matter how long it was going to take. Honestly, the funny thing is, you ask my dad, he thought we told him we thought it would take 3 weeks. It ended up taking about a year and a half to actually finish out the design and the build on top of everything else that we had going on.
Right. And the only reason that Jeremy says that is because that's where we started the build of the truck. And we were supposed to only be there for a few weeks. But in our heads, we say everything's going to take like a few weeks, but ends up taking a couple months. But that's only because we desire excellence. And, we wanted a great product and paired with a great experience. And, Rome wasn't built in a day. So
that's right.
we definitely took our time on it and made it look the best it could. And it functioned on a high level in the hottest part of the season, and it did pretty good, I would say. So
Yeah, got to give major props again.
it's still going.
Got to give major props to our manager, Patrick, and the people also,
Ooh, that's so
our
good.
other folks that worked it, Ian, Mallory, Tony, like some of these amazing people that hopped in there, and just giving major credits to them, because without them, we were at our 40-hour jobs and try to show up when we could, and loved every bit of that.
They got to love on everybody and made the vision happen. So truly hats off to them, and super grateful for their hearts and willingness to do that. So
yeah. So
sick.
Thank you to everyone who supported. Truly, I truly believe that there could be room for Be Bold Coffee one day. But for now, we've pared it back, and we're looking forward to running after this alone, really.
So we're here. Excited. We're here in the studio. And I guess we already talked a little bit about our goals for the podcast and everything. So
I think we should jump into it, dude.
Yeah, agreed.
Where in the world did your heart come for serving people? And, it didn't just happen just due to happenstance, right? It's happened because of some really hard things that have happened in our life. So talk to the people about why in the world we do what we do.
That's a really good question. Truly, growing up, there's some stories, and we're going to jump into them, because I think if you look at us now, a lot of times we don't get to go back and think about, what we've been through. And I think that we can get caught up in work a lot of times, and really just pushing through to the future, that we don't take time to go back and look at what happened in the past, because with past hurts and things like that, it's easy to shove them down. But truly, I think it's important to go back and look at what shaped us into the people that we are today. And I think it even casts such a larger reflection on who the Lord is and what he's done in our lives and everything. So I'm really excited that you asked that question.
Yeah.
And it kind of caught me off guard, because we actually planned our questions separately from each other. And that's good, man. That just shows your heart and, what we want to talk about. So
yeah.
Going back to the question.
And really quick, I just want to jump in and say that a lot of people see us as joyful. We show up with a smile on our face. We show up with excellence. Those are things that we don't wane from. It's something that we take very seriously, and that we show up to love everyone. Honestly, people are our biggest driver in everything that we do.
To a fault sometimes.
To a fault, sure. And I would say that we're recovering people pleasers.
That's right.
So we're just going to go ahead and say that. But also showing up for yourself. I've learned, we can get into all of that. I'm sure in many, many other podcasts. But ultimately our heart is for hospitality. Our heart is for serving. And so I want people to understand where we come from, so that they understand, wait, how can they be as joyful as they are with how much they've gone through in their lives. So to say that clearly, we've been through a lot, and I want to give people a reason for the joy that we have.
That is so good. Honestly, at this point in our lives, I would say that we were always joyful growing up. We had a great upbringing with our family, our family life, our mom, seriously, the best mom you could ever ask for, was always going to all of our ball games, and our dad just a biggest supporter. And so growing up in the 90s, just truly a great family experience growing up. And then but tragedy kind of struck going into, I guess, middle school. Our mom had been through a lot of tragedy, and she kind of turned to some things like alcohol, and that's not to take away from the kind of mom she was and the kind of mom she is, but that's something that she used to kind of mask her pain. And from there, we kind of learned that adults don't have it all together. They're really just big kids, and we all have stuff that we're going through. And so that was a really important moment in our lives. And so moving on past there, like, she struggled with that through high school. And that kind of gets us into what we made our idols. And that's school. We made school our idols because it was our one-way ticket out of our situation. We thought that if we worked hard enough, that if we strived to be the best, that we could one day get out and go live our happy corporate America lives and have families of our own. But truly, we thought that if we could work hard enough, that we would be good enough. And that was something that was instilled in us from a very young age. And that's something that we're actually very grateful for, because our mom pushed us. She said it was never, when it was never like if you go to college. It was always when you go to college, which, that's another conversation for another day on whether you should go to college or not, because I think the world has drastically changed. And so either way could be a great option, depending. So
trust in the Lord, and we believe that He can do anything.
Come on.
He can unlock any door.
Come on. Yes.
It doesn't matter who you are.
Yes. Yes. And so that drive pushed us to work for excellence in school and everything. And you kind of heard some of the stuff that Jeremy talked about earlier, but we were able to actually get scholarships to pay for our school at Auburn University, which was such a huge. Auburn has such a special place in our hearts because of the people. I mean, if you ask any person from Auburn, whether they loved it, you're probably going to get the same answer, man. It's one big family. And that sounds cliche until you truly figure out what it means. And so, yeah. So remind me the question. I might be rambling a little bit here.
No, you're good. You're good. So ultimately, like, what brings us our joy? What we've been through a lot of heartache. We've been through a lot of hardships. I think the people are wondering, especially, with the title of the video and everything of this podcast, they're wondering, we forgave our little brother's killers. Like,
I guess that pushes us into the story. Wow. I'm sorry.
No. I'm like, wow. That's no, it's crazy.
Yeah, man. That really does get us into the story. So both Jeremy and I, we were at our co-op jobs. We had both gotten internships across the country. I was in Texas. Jeremy was in Tuscaloosa. That's probably more of a mission trip, but I'm just kidding. We love Tuscaloosa. We love our people over there.
Dude, that was the first time we'd ever been apart in our lives. The first time. And so, just touching on that, I think people are going to be, definitely being twins. We grew up super close. We have a little brother named John Brandon. It's just the three of us kind of rolling through life. And Justin and I, of course, we're twins. We fight, and funny enough, the biggest contributor to us fighting is food. So we're both very competitive. And honestly, back in the day, I'm sure it was a few more things. But yeah. So, but nonetheless, we were apart from each other for the first times. And I remember getting this call from a friend who worked with us at the YMCA, and because we were lifeguards for 4 summers. And she was crying. And honestly, we were kind of taken back. We said, what's wrong? What's going on? And she said that our younger brother had been shot, and which came to us at a pretty big shock, because we thought he was going to be okay. And to this day, looking back, it's pretty still kind of a crazy thing to think about, because I really did think he was going to be okay. We'd picked him up on a couple other times where he'd been knocked out or something like that and had a concussion. All right, that's pretty, probably doesn't happen to everybody, but it happened to our little brother. And of course, he asked the same question like 50 times, and he was okay. At the end of the day, he regained his memory and all was good. But that night was obviously a big night for our family. I just remember, yeah, quickly hanging up the phone and calling my parents, and a couple rings later, my mom picked up and she couldn't talk, and my dad, I called him. I want to say that was the first time I'd ever heard him cry. He could barely talk, and I remember asking the first question was like, do you think he's gonna be okay? And they both said no. And I talked to both of them separately over the phone, but I remember that night. That night changed everything for us.
Mm, that's that really was a difficult night, and I think it's funny that we were both actually talking on the phone together at that time, and truly a life changing moment for us because we realized that life was so fragile,
Mm.
and
And by the way, that was 10 years ago, Justin.
mm,
March of 2015, which is crazy. And a lot of people might ask, okay, why now? Like, why are we speaking about John Brandon now? Forgive us because we actually grew up calling him Brandon, and that'll come back later on in the story. But he wanted his close friends when he got in high school to call him John. So John Brandon, JB, whatever
yeah,
whatever
many
you like to
names.
call him. A lot of people have heard that, they know this story. Maybe they haven't heard it from our lips. But love that guy. I- John Brandon was a knucklehead. He loved his friends. He loved his family. And
That's what I was gonna say is
go ahead.
that, man, people loved John Brandon, and you could tell by the candlelight vigil
Hmm.
the amount of people that were in the gym that day. I remember looking up, and our high school. I mean, it's not like really small. It's probably medium size, But I remember looking up in the new gym that they had just built and seeing just a sea of people that came out to support um, him and our family during that time. And I think that was truly a moment where I realized how many people loved him, and um, that really shook me up a lot.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so,
He was popular for playing baseball. He was a class clown. He could make anybody laugh.
mm,
And I actually, if you go back on my Instagram and go look at a picture, it's a picture right around Christmas time, before he had passed and everything, and he was reading a book, and he was just like, that memory sticks out to me because he was reading it so funny that everybody in the room couldn't stop laughing, and somebody had just happened to take a picture, and you could tell there wasn't anybody in the room that wasn't smiling. Um, so yeah, like, basically what had happened was, he was in our mom's minivan, and she had just moved away, and he was with his buddy, and that was the sister of who called us, and a couple of kids had already planned to rob them, and I don't know if they had planned on taking his life that day, um, but unfortunately, what had kind of spiraled downhill. He turned around and they had pulled the gun and shot him, and so unfortunately, they also took the phone, his phone, or his best friend's phone, and so I'm sure there wasn't a quick response time, but finally, like, at some point, his friend found a phone, called 911, and they came, but unfortunately, it was a little bit too late. And so, yeah, I remember just sitting there and kind of just like sharing that with a couple roommates that I was living with, and man, they went straight to praying for us. I had asked my parents if we needed to run home that night. They were worried about that trip. It was a couple hour drive for me. Justin couldn't just do that because he was 12 hours away. Um, but I remember going in the next day, and because I think it was Thursday, and we just immediately left that morning. I did anyways, and made it home to find my parents just weeping. And again, yeah, just crazy part of our lives that it's really shaped who we are today. And so we'll get into that. But
Yeah, our mom was actually living in Texas at the time. She had moved back home. Our parents had gotten divorced after our high school, and that kind of led my little brother. He didn't want to move to Texas, and he was kind of having a little bit of a falling out with our dad, and so he was living with his girlfriend. And so what I did, since I was co-oping out in Texas, is immediately. I think by the next day, told my work, and they actually flew me down to San Antonio, and I drove with my mom and some other family members
I
over
forgot
to
about that.
Alabama.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, yeah, and so we were kind of holding down two parts of the fort, and made it to Alabama, and man, it was so tough. I remember actually the next day. Before going, I don't even know if you know about this, but I literally went to work the next day because what was I was in an unfamiliar place, and I literally sat there in my cube just crying, and that had to be the most awkward time for people around in the office. Like, there's literally this guy just weeping in his cube. It hit me in spurts, and my boss came over and he was like, "Hey man, why don't you go home? You have like time. Take the time." It's like, what? I'm just gonna go sit in my empty house and by myself, like without any family. Like, I was truly heartbroken and devastated that my little brother,
3 years younger than us.
3 years younger than us, didn't make it. And so I mean, the next couple days were a whirlwind getting to Alabama, and going through the candlelight vigil, just being with family. My mom was already broken. She had already lost we had just lost our grandmother, her mom, to a disease, and
Literally in January. So that was only a couple months apart.
so needless to say, like, when it rains, it pours, right? Like, and so,
Ultimately,
but
yeah,
like I
yeah,
will say,
but-
but like, in this moment, like, it was just a pivotal moment in our lives. And so I just want to jump into, like, going back to Auburn. I think the next semester, it was a summer semester that we went back to.
Yep.
This is this is March of 2015, by the way, if we hadn't said that. Did you say that already?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So the next semester, we went back to Auburn for summer, which is a quieter time at Auburn. Not a lot of things happening. It's
kind of a blur.
It's summer. It really was a blur. Like, it goes by quick. It's just a few months. You get your classes are generally like stacked, just to get it done. And then the next semester, we end up going back out to Texas for myself and Jeremy, to another Tuscaloosa, around to Tuscaloosa. And then the next semester was what, fall?
Yeah.
Is that how that went?
So it would have been
Summer,
fall.
and then we go back in the spring.
Yep. So we finally make it back to Auburn in the spring. I mean, there were a ton of people there at Auburn. It's a growing campus. And honestly, that whole year, they were actually already going through the court trial and everything like that, which is crazy. The two kids that had done it, of course, only one pulled the trigger, but both of them were held on murder charges and robbery charges. Of course, it happened, crazy time. And they were both being held. And honestly, I remember not really wanting to be a part of those court cases because they were sharing some details and stuff like that. And we felt still like we needed to be fully focused on work or anything. So I remember there were some questions like, why aren't the brothers there to support their brother and everything like that? And man, talk about just hard and difficult. Like, only a decision that you can make once, really. Fortunately, we were able to make it to the final court ruling So it took a while. I think it was August of 2016. That would have been a year and a half later. These kids were waiting to hear their sentencing. And
Before we get to that, can
yeah,
you just describe what took place in the semester we went back to Auburn, and like truly
hmm,
pivotal and timely, you know, just for eternity in our lives.
yeah. I will say this, that I believe that everything happens in life for a reason. Like our lives are pre-planned out. And because we serve a God that does that. He has a course for our lives. And of course we all have free will and everything like that, but just trusting that when we follow his will, he will guide our footsteps. And we have to take those little steps of obedience and trust that, knowing that he's going to take us exactly where we need to be. So a perfect example of that would be, we showed up to Auburn hungry. Like, what in the world is the point of life if you can live 17 years, have such an amazing future ahead, and your life be cut short? And
Mm.
I know a lot of people see it on the news. Nobody thinks it can hit them. Like, it can't hit that close to home. But when it does, how in the world do you react? And I remember showing back up to Auburn, again, like I said, hungry to know what God had in store for us. And we showed up to church, and it was one of the college student services called One. And I mean, really, is a big church. I want to say hundreds, almost 1,000 people there. And we just got done worshiping, and this guy walked up to us, and his name was Brandon. And that's how good God is. Like, he cares so much about the minute details of our
Mm.
lives. He'll get, if you knock, he will answer. And we've seen that time and time again. And so this is just a beautiful thing where we called him Brandon. It could have been a John, could have been in any other name, really. But it ended up being the name that we called him, near and dear to our hearts, Brandon, a guy named Brandon McClure. And he
Mm.
said,
We didn't know him at the
yeah,
time.
we didn't know him. We didn't know who this guy was. Later, we found out his name was Brandon. And he walked up to us and he said, "Man, I don't know why I feel the need to walk up to you guys and say that y'all should join my small groups." And
Mm.
Justin hit the nail on the head earlier. He said, "Man, we were focused on school, but being the people pleasers that we were like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Like, we'll take a look at these small groups and see what in the world he's talking about." But on the inside, we were also in like, bro, we have to focus on. I mean, it's sophomore year, man. This is when all of our really hard engineering classes, they call them weed out classes, because you show up to to class the first day to engineering physics one, and you have about 200 people. I'm telling you that by the third day, there's literally like 75 people. Like, it gets cut in that bad because the professors are trying to scare you out of it. They start putting some mumbo jumbo on the wall, hitting the board with their chalk and speaking a different language. And you're like, what did I just go through? And so we were going through that, and like, man,
Like,
ain't no way.
mm-mm.
Like, I trust God, but man, I ain't going to trust him that much. And
I also trust that I'm going to fail my classes if I don't study.
right. And so we told Brandon, we're like, yeah, we'll find you after the service like you told us to, but we are not joining this group. We didn't tell him that, but we're like, nah. And so we went through the service, and we ran for the door. And sure enough,
Guess who was at the door?
my dude Brandon. And he signed us up so quick. It was before we could even tell him no. And thankfully that it happened that way, because we joined this group of about 12 to 15 men, is called Freedom Group. And during this Freedom Group, tell them what happened, Justin.
Mm. Freedom Group was a really pivotal time. I already said pivotal, but we'll stick with the word. It was huge because we show up with a group of guys, and Freedom is a curriculum designed by some pastors that points back to the word and everything like that. But it's truly just a time of coming together, and you go through different topics each week. 1 week it might be the power of the tongue. 1 week it could be on unforgiveness. That could be unforgiveness of others, unforgiveness of yourself, which we needed that. And so Um, and so,
Identity
yeah,
in Christ.
identity.
You
Come
know,
on,
yeah, like ultimately,
spiritual order. That was one of the weeks.
come on,
And so,
come on.
ultimately, it could have been any small group that he was signing us up for. It could have been volleyball. It could have been football. It could have been, it's just a way the church. It's a powerful tool the church uses to get people together and doing life together. And so, it could have been baking. You know, thank God it was Freedom Group. It was exactly what we needed in that season of time. And so we end up walking through this. Um, really excited and
Yep,
but
got
also dreading it because we had homework after these classes and everything, and we really got to put God to the test. But guess what? He showed up.
yeah.
He showed up in the most powerful way, and so
He really reshaped our identity. It was the first time I'd really audibly heard God's voice. And he said, "You are set free by my name." And he said, "If you trust me, you'll get water baptized." So we did that. Praise God. And so ultimately, I mean, again, can't script it any better. Like God is a perfect story writer. And we walked away from that semester feeling filled up, where if I didn't do that, I would have felt dragged down. And honestly, my life is totally different because of that semester that we walked through freedom with those group of guys and amazing leaders that we had. And I remember in again a year and a half later in August, we had the chance to show up to court. And honestly, it was crazy. The attorneys were telling us to tell the judge to sentence these two boys, two men now, to the fullest extent,
mm,
to the highest charges that could possibly be given to these kids for the crimes that they had committed,
mm,
murder of our brother. And I remember in that moment feeling a little bit conflicted. I really didn't know how to go about it because I was angry. There were parts of me that felt a little bit bitter. If I were to be completely honest, I didn't know how to handle the situation, but I'm thankful I walked through that semester because I really did get a chance to forgive the killers of our brother,
mm,
and both 18 years old at this point in time. And God is a God who's close to the brokenhearted. I know that. And
mm,
so I showed up really just in prayer. And I remember actually it was a perfect picture of what we're going to look at when we get to the end of our lives and we show up to God looking at us, and he's going to say, you've done so many things. What have you done for my kingdom? And he's going to say, if we're not walking with Jesus, he's going to see us in who we are. And he's going to say, man, I see a lot of sin in your life. But if we were walking with Jesus, he'll see Jesus in us and he'll be able to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. But
mm,
it's going to be a little bit like a court ruling, right?
mm,
Like he's going to say,
mm,
all right, like tell me what you've done. Just like those
mm,
two kids got up there and the judge was like, hey, I see what you've done wrong. And guess what? When you've done these wrong things, guess what? There's a weight to those things.
mm.
There's
A
a
penalty.
penalty to those things, and it hurts. And in the world that we live, they have to deal with those consequences. And I remember looking them in the eye, directly in the eye. And Justin, you'll probably be able to tell your part as well. And feeling, man, like you could tell they felt one felt a little bit more remorseful than the other. And I remember that and feeling a little bit confused as to why the guy that pulled the trigger actually didn't feel a whole lot of anything. He's probably
Mm,
kind of caught up in the moment. I get that, but their families were both there too, and they were both weeping. And I remember when they had a chance to speak, they were talking about what a great kid one of them were. And I remember my dad actually, you know, kind of crazy. He actually walked up to the mother, and he gave her a big hug,
mm,
and he said, just like they were losing a child as much as we were losing a brother
mm,
in a different way. And so I remember looking at that and kind of maturing in that moment and saying, man, that's truly how Christ loves us. And that's how we are forgiven. And it's just crazy. It's now it's who we live for every single day. And I remember reading that note and saying, man, like, again, kind of breaking down what you guys have done. You've taken a brother from us that we'll never be able to talk to again. But praise God, you guys have a second chance. And praise God, it can be a different story than how it started. And I know this isn't what you intended, but you're going to go to jail. And however, we forgive you. As much as it hurt, as much as it felt weird to say, like God directed us to that. And it gave me a lot of peace. It gave me a lot of comfort in walking away. And I know it's this key that we get to use to unlock a prison for ourselves. Because I could have been there, and held myself captive to the thoughts and the what ifs and the things that, man, my little brother could have done so many amazing things. But man, I truly believe, and Justin, you'll agree with me, that we have a key that we can give to the people that are watching this that can unlock them from the things that they are holding on to.
That is so good, man.
Yeah, and I'm excited to hand that key and to invite people into that same, man, let's walk away feeling free. So go ahead. I know you have some things to say, but
wow, that's such a beautiful picture that you described with the courtroom. And I remember it as just a blur, but I do remember the moment of looking them in the eyes and truly, everybody was telling us, lay it on them. The judge still hadn't announced a ruling. He could change his mind, but based on what we say, not super likely, but like, you want them to feel the weight of it. But truly, it took me back to this verse that I remember in Matthew chapter 6, verse 14, where it says, "For if you forgive people of their wrongdoing, your heavenly Father will forgive you as well. But if you don't forgive people, your Father will not forgive your wrongdoing." So, wow. Are we really forgiven to the degree that we forgive other people? That is some heavy stuff. And so, like, man, it's like when we truly understand what we've been forgiven for, then we want to forgive other people because we realize that we're wrong. We're just as wrong as they are. And thank goodness, praise God, we have an advocate in Jesus who comes before God and says, no, this is my son. This is my daughter. Like they trusted in me and the Lord has given us a way out. And so, man, like, just got to praise God for that. And
not even to say that our walk ends up being perfect at the end of the day. Like, just because we went through Freedom Group doesn't mean I haven't, faltered or failed in many different instances. But man, like, it's just so much better. God says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. He wants that for everybody. And if I can describe what a yoke is, it's what the ox used to use or horses, right? Like, they used to be put together on horses and buggies and all that good stuff. And if one pulls, then you're not yoked very well. But the yoke is what keeps the horses multiplying their output.
You can steer them with it.
And you can steer them with it. Boom.
That's good.
So he says, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. And I truly believe that when we walked away, when we gave school to Jesus, he gave me better grades than ever before. I used to hold on to it so tightly. I used to go to class after staying up the night before, like the entire night, to study for a class. And I would fail that mug, dude. I would fail that class. I would fail that test. Fluids, bruh. Thermodynamics, dude. You could count it as an F or a D maybe if I was lucky. And
you probably made a C.
Okay, there you go. I received that. But I remember Justin would go in and he would, funny enough, take pictures of me sleeping in those classes because, man, I was super unproductive after a night of good old coffee and in the name of myself.
Me too. I would be sleeping in class. We'd be reeling sleeping in class and reeling later, like, because we'd have to teach ourselves, and yeah, that didn't go too well. But man, some people think some people graduate summa cum laude. That's Jeremy. Some people some people graduate thank you laude. I just ruined that joke. I butchered it. But that was me. Thank you laude in college. Amen.
If you don't know what that is, go look it up. Thank you laude. Or thank you a latte. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 100%.
We just made that one up on the fly.
We were drinking college. But what am I talking about? We were drinking coffee for the caffeine, for the effects in college. Yes. That's what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. Them little frou-frou coffee, little campfire coffees.
Oof.
It's all good.
Sugar.
It's all good. It goes down the same hatch, and you know what's next. But
it's getting bad.
I'm gonna paint the picture really quickly. I'm gonna paint a picture.
Do it.
Because I truly believe that boldness, like I said earlier in the podcast, I truly believe that boldness looked like letting go of the forgiveness, letting go of revenge. You know,
for us, 100%, that is bold. It's countercultural, and you know, a lot of times people try to paint in the world today that, you know, of what a man is, and you know, is big, burly, like wants to fight. Wants to, you know, has to be tough. Can't cry. And Jesus came and flipped that upside down on his head and said, no. Listen, a real man forgives.
A real man is vulnerable. A real man is patient. A real man is kind. You know, I'd also say that being bold is also dreaming again when my whole world fell apart, you know, where we could have let that drug us down and pull us apart from one another. But man, if I could say one thing, God knew exactly what he was doing when he put two of us together, and he gave us twins to run after each other. It's kind of like an Aaron and a Moses kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? But no, truly, like, I just wanted to say thank you for standing there and being an amazing brother. And, you know, where parts of me probably failed with kind of lifting you up in those moments, you know, truly thankful that God was there to kind of help both of us grasp arms and walk through that together.
Man, and I know
we miss Brandon. Like, I would take him back 100%. And I know we would still be close at the end of the day, right? But like, but man, I know God has a plan, and he has us here in this moment for some really big reasons. So
come on, now we get to encourage other people with this story, and I truly hope it encourages our listeners. You know, even if you don't have a twin, like, you have brothers and sisters, you know, around you, and it takes intentionality. I know, you know, even for the people who are, you know, you might not be super outgoing, but like, there are people around you that want to, you know, everybody wants to be loved and taken care of, and so, man, if we could just be that for other people, you know, there truly are people like brothers and sisters out there for you. And so, you know, what does forgiveness not mean, by the way?
Well, I've heard it this way. It's like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies of it.
Or I've heard setting yourself on fire and hoping that the other person dies of smoke inhalation.
Yeah, absolutely.
all those things.
So forgiveness isn't holding those people like, I have a question for you really quickly, and maybe you can answer it in the way that you thought. If you could look the guy that pulled the trigger in the eye and say something to him today, what would it be? What would you say to him?
There's a lot of things to say, you know, and I've sat down and I've looked them up in the systems and everything. I've tried to figure out how I could send them a letter, each of them separately, and I just haven't done it. I don't know if you knew that. But I would just say, because I mean, there's a chance for both of them to get out and actually live like full lives and everything. They end up taking a plea deal and, you know, got their sentences reduced because they they pleaded guilty and everything. But I would say you still have a second chance. There's still a second chance to write this story. And, I would tell them that I forgive them again. And to just, I would tell them to be bold and, go after their dreams. And I would tell them that they're loved, that, God loves them so much and has a plan for them. And I can say that with full confidence and clarity, which is just such a freeing feeling. I feel great saying it too.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people would hold on to that. And I'm not saying that's out of my power, because if it were up to me in my flesh, I'd be like, nah, they don't deserve a second chance. Like, they need to stay in there for the rest of their lives. But I know God looks at them as his sons, and that's such a beautiful thing. Just as I've sinned, he would look at me and say, man, no. I love him. That's my guy right there. And so I would want that for them as well. Truly. And so, forgiveness doesn't mean that what they didn't do was wrong. That's what I would say. What they did was wrong. And I don't get to be the one at the end of the day. The Lord says that he takes the revenge himself. And so, they're going to have to speak up and answer for what they did. But I truly believe that there's another chance for them.
Man, there were some bad men in the Bible too.
Yeah.
We had Paul. We had David.
Paul was a murderer.
Bro, yeah, absolutely. And so, but guess what? God counts him as some of his favorite people, And
Paul
wrote
it's like most of the New Testament.
Absolutely. Yeah, and he used them actually to save so many people's lives. And so, through my brokenness, because at the end of the day, this isn't a podcast about perfection. This is a podcast about real stories, real boldness, real people doing hard things, and also finding joy. I wanted to say this real quick too, is that our joy isn't based off of outcome. That the joy that we have is based off of the God that we serve, and that because we trust him, we know that all things will work out for the glory, for the goodness of those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. And so being able to identify myself as that, I walk this life less with my plans and more of his. And I know that's, again, it's not to call me perfect. I'm not perfect. I'll be the first one to tell you. I struggle every single day. There are many times where I look myself in the mirror and I'm saying, why in the world did I do that again? Or, man, why can I just not do this or that or whatever? But yeah, no, I trust in God with all my heart, and I know that he's doing something big. So,
that is so good, man. I'm so glad we're chatting about this. It's been a while since we've brought this up, and we might glance over it at a family function, like a family reunion or something like that, and be like, man, we really wish JB was here. And, he's still living in our hearts and with us. And, we get to go on and carry out his legacy a little bit. And that really drives us to pursue excellence in business and in everything. So
absolutely.
come on. I wanted to go over a verse real quick.
Yeah. Let's do it.
And it reminds me of our lives. Not exactly what our lives are, but like truly what I strive to be. And it really gets me fired up. It says, this is perfect. It says, now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, which I truly, we are not the smartest people out there. And we'll get to what our dad says in a minute, but he says, now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, they marveled, and they took knowledge of them that they had been with Jesus. Come on, man. Like we are not the sharpest tools out there. We're not, we're not even the hardest working out there. Like, we will work hard in everything we do. But when people see us, I pray that they don't see, our accomplishments or anything like that. But I pray that they see that we have walked with God and that we've walked with Jesus. And so, come on.
That's so good. That's so good.
One thing that what I was talking about before is what our dad likes to say, and I truly think that we've carried it with us, is that we always ask him, how do you know how to do so much? I like to think that he's a jack of all trades, and probably master of a lot of those trades. He really is a boss, and we love him so much. And so we say, how do you know how to do all this stuff, Dad? And you know what he tells us every single time?
What?
He says, it's not that I know how to do it. It's not that I'm just not afraid to try.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
That's something that we've carried with us. We don't really know how to do a podcast, but here we are. We're just trying. We're just grooving.
Right. We don't know how to do a coffee truck. We'll try to build it out. After we already tried to build out a summer road trip van that never made it across the country, but we did make it across the country. So
R.I.P.
Ricky, rest in peace, Ricky.
Yeah. And we don't know how to do vacation rentals. Just not scared to try. Come on.
That's
Who
right.
knows what all this is going to lead to? But I pray that you're bold in what you do, and that you just go try so many things, and then find the things that you're good at. Find the things that the Lord has burdened on your heart, and go for them.
Yeah.
Because we truly only live one life, and we saw that with our little brother. And our day could end tomorrow. We don't know, but we get to choose what we do today.
Yep.
And that's to love people and do what the Lord called us to do.
Absolutely. And
Don't delay.
We want to pray. We also say that we believe that the guests that are going to come on this show will be able to inspire you. They'll be able to challenge you to be bold and run after the things that you are passionate about. And even if you don't know your passion yet, join us on this journey. We're going to talk to a lot of different people, and they'll be able to share it. So really excited about that. Really excited to share all the stories that are coming ahead. Stoked to do this, live this journey out with you, live this life out with you, Justin. And dude, let's be bold. Let's be bold. Let's stay bold.
Super blessed, man. Super blessed. Really excited. Just as Jeremy said, I'm going to recap all the same things because we're twins. We got to say the same things. If you're around us long enough, you're going to hear the same thing twice. So we love you guys. And stay bold. Let's go.
Let's go. Episode 1, we're out. Let's get it.